into Camel Call Friday alongside Lendl Suggs and Evan Budrovich. I am Chris Hemeyer, and we are so very excited for this weekend as we are in it. Winter sports, diving into conference, and for the first time in a long time, we got some home basketball games to talk about, and boy, it is a fun one. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, men's and women's basketball. Our wrestling team on the road to start conference play, a big one with Chattanooga this weekend, and our swim team gets back into the pool and gets it going. Evan, again, it has been such an odd schedule. Both our teams, both the men and the women, so much time on the road to begin the year in non-conference play, and even at the start of conference play, it'll be so good to have them back in the friendly confines.
And the men being on the road 3 of the first 4, we talked before Christmas of when you look at the schedule, if you get through these first 4 or 5 games for the men, it's very promising with the home schedule and the teams they play. I'll give a ton of credit earning the split, going 2-2. That's never easy to do. And did we come up with a name for the 4 games in 4 days? Because I saw on your Twitter account, or X, you talked about Camel Bonanza.
It was basketball bonanza.
If we could put our heads together here and think of a 4-game and 4-day name, we could filter that in for next year.
My pencil is never again. Let's not do it again. That would be wonderful if we could never try that again.
Yeah, no doubt. It was one of those weird scheduling things. But we are back home now, and we'll start with the men. You make a good point. 3 of the first 4 on the road as Campbell comes out of it 2-2. And we've warned you about this, that there's parity in these leagues. A lot of good teams in the CAA and whatever sport you are. But wow, we weren't even done with the first weekend. We had one team that was undefeated through 4 games. That's William and Mary with a brand new coach for basketball. Only 2 teams, Stony Brook and NCA&T, that haven't won a game. Campbell right now at 2-2 is at a no-joke 7-way tie for 5th place, just a game out of a 3-way tie for 2nd. So obviously a big weekend. A big task. Charleston comes into town on Thursday night. It's a team that when this airs, we will know have they won or they lost. Charleston was undefeated, came off a loss at Monmouth, so it's going to be a locked-in Charleston team. New coach, of course, the headline, they lose Pat Kelsey to Louisville. But, oh, by the way, they got Louisville's old coach and former Xavier man that did such a great job with that high mid-major program in Chris Mack. They kept their CAA preseason conference on the year in Budrovich. They have one of the best point guards in the CAA, and they filled it in with a lot of really good guys from the portal.
One thing that remains the same, it's a high-tempo team. And this Campbell team, which is interesting, they have forced more turnovers than anybody in the CAA this year, especially in the league games. This is not a team that if last year was a little slower tempo, they want to work the clock. They've actually sped up their offense a little bit. I'll be curious with 2 teams that want to push tempo a little more and Campbell that wants to be aggressive, forcing those turnovers and jumping in passing lanes. Now, last year's game, Charleston had the big lead early at home and they ran away with it. This year, if we can keep it tight in those first 10 minutes and with the tempo we're playing at in the second half, I mean, even in that Elon game, I know defensively it was a little worrisome in the first half, but much better defense in the second half. And when they're locked in like that defensively, that just unlocks them on the offensive end.
If Campbell gets a split in either of these games this weekend, that's huge because this is a Charleston team. And just my personal experience watching Charleston, the first game I watched of Charleston this week or this season was the December 23rd game when they were playing in Hawaii versus Loyola Chicago. And I don't know how to say his name, Trevorez, the guard number 5, was going absolutely berserk. So This is a team who loses Rain Smith, but then they get the 3-pointer is still their thing. So Campbell, if they can get a win against this Cougars team, that sets them off in the right direction for what they want to be this season.
Absolutely. And it's a Campbell team that this is a odd statistic, but they have 10 out of their first 11 over this year and a fourth now in the CAA with these weekend series. They have split them. So that's the goal when you're doing your business at home. You got to win at home, and that's what Campbell's trying to do, and they'll try to do it against Monmouth on Saturday.
So Charleston's the best scoring team. Monmouth may be the most nuclear team in the league. You start 0-8, all road games. You beat Seton Hall, and you beat Charleston. So from an up-and-down standpoint, you never know what you're going to get. They have this guard, Abdi Bashir Jr. He might be the player of the year. He's like 25 a game. He shoots these 30-foot threes. He's not very big, but he's mobile. And they've upset some good teams. So, that's a club I'd be curious how they play Thursday, because they may literally be Jekyll and Hyde. And then back to this Campbell weekend. What I like, too, it's the first Saturday with students, the community, and really the first chance in the new year, if you're a fan of men's basketball, to see this group over the next month.
Yeah, and for the women's team, they started 0-2. They had to have their first 2 conference games on the road. They were injured, and they had some key injuries there. They have a great chance to pick up 2 wins this weekend against UNCW and Delaware.
Yeah, starting with the back half of that, Delaware is obviously under a rebuild. Their last season in the CAA. They're trying to figure things out before they go Conference USA. That's going to be a big step up for that basketball program, so they're going to need to figure it out quickly here. But their last year in the CAA, they haven't been great, to say the least, this year. But again, in this league, you never know. So it's going to be a great challenge for them on Sunday. Nicole Woods and her squad is going to come in this Friday and try to replicate what they did in Trask Coliseum to start the season, which is going to be an interesting thing to see, because this was a Seahawks team that wasn't that great. They only won 3 games last year. Now they're up to 8 wins so far this year, much improved, an influx of transfers coming in to kind of help and support this squad. And of course, it's the closest rivalry that Campbell has, because we're right here. So expect an influx of Seahawks fans to be here on Friday. Expect the students to get back, who are really rallying around this team, who the freshmen seem to be the stars. You have your steady hand, and Gemma Nunez, Gigi Boone has really stepped up to really take the load to be the leading scorer. But the freshmen, it just depends on what night it is and whose ball it is that night. And Sierra Alexander has had a really good week. She's coming off a CAA Player of the Week or Rookie of the Week this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if we had to give a 6th man of the year or 6th woman of the year, it's her. She comes off the bench and is an instant spark for this Campbell's team.
One, I hate when they give out co-rookies of the week. I think Sierra had the better week than the player from Hofstra. Secondly, and more importantly, that game at Wilmington, that was a scrappy game. Like, you can feel the animosity between those two teams. Ali Zelaya, who comes in from Carolina, brings a toughness for them. And this Campbell squad, they fell behind early in that game, but they had a real chance late to win it. And what we saw against Hampton on Wanda Watkins Day, when that club's locked in, they're going to bludgeon some people defensively with the turnovers, and then the way they're moving the ball offensively. Like, this Campbell team, we worried early in the year how it would gel. We're seeing now with Jasmine Felton healthy, this club could be dangerous in February and March.
The similarities, if you watch the men and the women's team, they both know that they're a little bit undersized from where they're supposed to be. So their half-court defense is to get sticky in the passing lanes. If you watch both of the teams play, especially the women's team, I'm going to get in every passing lane I can because I don't know how many rebounds I'm going to get, which is good for them because their defense to offense transition is amazing. When they're, like Evan said, when they're locked in, that Hampton game, they were stealing the ball, they were diving, they were scrapping, they were getting their hands in there and then getting those transition buckets, which really made that win a really huge win for the first conference win of the season.
Yeah, and you mentioned how these fantastic freshmen, remember, guys, we were talking a couple months ago about the fact that, hey, warning everybody, there's going to be a lot of freshmen. These are really good recruits. It may take them a while to gel. They showed from the very open these freshmen were ready to play, and credit to the coaching staff and them getting ready to play. And now in conference play, you're not just saying, let's just try to stay in the top half of the conference. We're all realizing that this team can do something, which is saying a lot. And the fact that they've had different players be CAA Rookie of the Week. Co-rookies, I agree the same thing as you. It's always tough. But look, there's 14 teams in the league. So when you get a Player of the Week and especially a Rookie of the Week, it means something.
So NCNT, they made the semifinals last year. They're the lone undefeated, but even their style of play is hard to replicate. There is no Stony Brook of a year ago. No. A team that's going to go 17-1 and mollywop everybody. Now, we got that one win, just a note for the audience at home. I think this year you'll see more upsets, which is good for a team like Campbell, because there's not going to be two. Now, Charleston has 2 elite guards, the Barbet twins who are sophomores. But the rest of the league, anybody can beat anybody. Kind of similar to the men's league this year. You know, Charleston may be the best team, but I could see both our clubs being around 500 or better. And you go, well, how'd they lose to Drexel? But then they beat Hofstra. Like, you're going to sit there and nitpick it because it's that competitive up and down.
Yeah, and usually I think I made the comment there has been in the last 5 years, no team has won the conference with 3 or more losses on the men's side. I think that might change this year, at least from what I've seen. I'll be interested to see Charleston with my own eyes because they look like a team that's as good as they were last year. And remember, when you're thinking about it, obviously, you're always trying to win the conference. But the top 4 teams in this 14-team league on both the men and the women, they get a double bye. Crucial when you have to play so many games in a one big league to get to the NCAA tournament. Look, 5 through 10 does get a bye. You got to stay out of the bottom 4. But really, if you have your sights set on making a move, you want to get in that top 4.
And you know what's crazy on the women's side? The last time a 1 seed won the conference tournament, 2014, James Madison, who's now in the Sun Belt, and obviously they've moved on. But there's a lot of history here of 7 seeds winning it back-to-back years. The team's not in the top 4 winning the league the last 3 years. Like, once you get to D.C., 1, great experience, but 2, it is frantic and wild.
And that's what happens when you're in a totally neutral conference tournament, which is why we like the totally neutral conference tournament site so much.
Yeah, I think I already coming into this year, you look at the conference tournament on both sides and go, we could see some upsets. Like someone could go down early just because of the parity and how good this league is. And then you look at the women's side and you go, somebody can make a run like Hofstra did last year. Somebody can really make a run because you don't have to run into a buzzsaw that is Stony Brook because, like you said, nobody has that elite level talent this year just going to blow people out of the water.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be a fun weekend, and we are finally back home. So please come out and enjoy it. Again, last night would have been the Charleston game already, but we've got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. GoCamels.com, your place for all the information. Kids 12 and under get in for free. And again, because they were on the road so much, there's going to be a lot of home games coming up.
Is that
in
in reference to
half.
Ronnie Fisher's freshman class? The kids 12 and under that are all playing and starting this year?
That's right. Everybody that comes, the youngsters will like watching the youngsters. It'll be a whole lot of fun. Hey, wrestling starts the only team of Campbell's 21 Sports that is in a different conference than the CAA. The CAA does not have wrestling. The SoCon does. So, again, picked with App to contend for the title. And you might be looking, you're like, wow, 1-7 in duels. If you look at their schedule, they've been beat by a bunch of top 20 and top 10 teams. And boy, at the Southern Scuffle, which is one of the premier preseason tournaments on this side of the Mississippi, it was a team that finished 6th of 23 teams in the standings. They had another good tournament at the Franklin and Marshall Open. This is going to be a team that's going to do really, really well. You'll see it when they take on Gardner-Webb on Friday. And then at Chattanooga, a team that has fallen off the pace from App and Campbell, but it's always, especially when you go there, is going to be a good litmus test. And then they will finally be back home, not playing on the baseball field, but back in Gore Arena a week from Friday.
In a weather-controlled environment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There will be no moisture on the mats. January 24th, Friday, 6 o'clock, they'll be right here to take on Bellarmine.
Yeah, the SoCon, so John Mark Bentley at App State, him and Scotty Sentes, there's so much mutual respect. And even during some of the storms this year and the conversations of the teams volunteering and helping each other out. What I love, too, is Chattanooga has been that traditional third rival, and you noted heading that way this upcoming week. For Campbell, of a dual standpoint, great heavyweight, great at 125. They've done well at 33. It's just getting the depth of their lineup, up to par, especially in these dual competitions. Teams like Citadel and Bellarmine, you can kind of show up and win, but when you face those top 2 to 3 clubs, you do need all 10 of your weight classes to not only perform, but get bonus points, get the reversals. Now there's rule changes in the point scoring system in wrestling, so you get 3 for a takedown. More offensive-minded wrestlers will do well. It's not all about holding in your corner and milking clock, which I think makes the sport more entertaining this year.
And I think for people that are just getting into wrestling and then watching Campbell wrestle, and you look at the record and you go, well, maybe this is not really a good team. You have to understand in wrestling, the conference is what matters the most. And it's kind of like tracking away that individual performances obviously help you get to the postseason. Like, it's not a whole team performance that gets you into the postseason. It's about individuals. But when you get into conference and you're fighting for a conference championship, that is when these wrestling clubs take it serious. That is when it matters the most. They go down to these tournaments so they can get the great experience and they do all of that kind of stuff. But when it's time and you're in conference and these matches matter towards a conference championship before you get to the conference tournament or regular season championship, you will see some of the best wrestling of the year, because these rivalries matter to those wrestlers when they get down there. For some of them, they really don't like the other team on the other side, so they really want to do their best, which makes for some really fun wrestling.
Absolutely. It's a really, really heated rivalry because it was Chad and App that ran the SoCon, and Campbell, quite frankly, had to rebuild from nothing. Kerry Colat, former Olympian, one of the most heralded high school wrestlers of all time, an All-American. He came here, and Campbell put money into wrestling, and they started to become a wrestling program, and then they go toe-to-toe with these teams. So it's the new kids on the block that won this conference year in and year out. Now Campbell trying to get back up there. Something else that's going on this weekend that will be a lot of fun is the Campbell Hall of Fame. 5 members will get inducted to this. One of them, Pat Brogdon, Campbell's outstanding female athlete. She was a tennis player who then, after her collegiate career, became one of the best senior golfers in women's golfers in the history of the state or the region. That just tells you how athletic she was. Speaking of wrestling, Jerry Brooks from wrestling is going in, and what is so cool is his son is Jalen Brooks, who was the leading tackler for this Campbell team, the transfer from North Carolina, going to be back for another year.
The leading tackler in FCS football this year.
Yeah,
he had a great redshirt senior year.
I mean, he was sensational. His dad and mom met here right at Campbell, so a great story. Jerry will be back and be inducted. Bev Shepard Marley, who was Campbell's first volleyball player that will ever be inducted. She was on the team when they were Division I for the first time back in 1987, then went on to have a great coaching career here in Eastern North Carolina. And what is fun / makes me feel a little old in the fact to know that I have been here for a while is we are inducting 2 coaches that I have worked with very, very closely. First and foremost, we'll talk about John Crooks. He is still the women's and men's golf coach. He was the men's golf coach in the summer in 1990. Then they're like, hey, you can do women too, right? And not only did he take that on, but he is one of the most successful women's coaches of all time, second most tournament wins of any coach, period, ever in women's Division I golf, and his men's team has been almost as heralded. And oh, by the way, Jesper Svensson, who is one of his proteges from 2019, just finished 10th in the Sony Open in the PGA Tour, which he is on in Hawaii last week.
Wasn't that neat? This week, watching the Elon game, like coming out of commercial, they had the Cedric Mullins bump about his time at Campbell, and then the Jesper Svensson. Like, I know the game didn't go well, but the exposure of them talking about professional golfers, and he'll compete in the Masters this year and get his PGA card, possibly. He has to qualify for it. But the fact that we may have a full PGA active member now in Jesper is amazing.
Yeah, it's been great. And Coach Crooks, we have talked about it on this before. The 161 tournament wins, but 27 league titles, including 19 on the women's side. And for the past 15 years, he has had either a team or an individual qualify for the NCAA tournament. I say this, if all that doesn't wow you, Campbell gets at-large bids in both men's and women's golf to the NCAA tournament. Baseball has done that, of course. Wrestling can get individuals in like that, but that just tells you all you need to know about this golf program.
And he's had 27 conference golfers of the year, and he's been coaching, 35 years? So almost every year he has someone who is the golfer of the year, which means now not only is he producing the best team effort, but he's producing the best individuals who are going out there and putting – it takes a lot. I'm not a golf person. I can't do it. I've tried. I just can't do it.
I got to tell you the stories about when Chris and I went out for my birthday one year for golf with a group of us Campbell employees.
That'll be for another. That'll be the Camel Call after dark.
So, it takes a lot to be successful over a long period of time, and he's done it. And so I think he deserves his flowers, most definitely.
I mean, absolutely. And what has been so interesting about it for 35 years, he's gone through 3 different generations, and we know how generations to generations change, athletes change. He's gone from a domestic-based recruiting philosophy to an international recruiting philosophy, and it has been consistently good here in and here out. And again, and not just winning conference titles, sending these players on to be professionals and doing well professionally. I mean, he has a handful of guys that have finished in the top 10 in PGA events, and he has another one recently in Jesper. So it'll be fun to watch him as we have a golfer to follow in the biggest tour in the entire world. So that'll be really, really fun. And then finally, to round up the class, Dale Steele. He was the first football coach here at Campbell. As you know, Campbell had a football team back when they were a junior college to 1950. It went dormant all the way to 2006. And so they said, hey, we need to hire a coach that is going to start a football program from scratch. And oh, by the way, we're going to be a Division I FCS program, but a non-scholarship program. So you have no scholarships to get anyone to come and play on your brand new football team in Buies Creek, North Carolina. Here you go. And in the fourth year of play, his team, 6-5, a winning conference record at 5-3, and a winning record in 4 years. Still, from all that has happened here in the last 15 years, that performance and getting that team from nothing to 6-5 is one of the best things we have seen here in Campbell in the last 2 decades.
And to play Georgia State and Atlanta in the the Dome at the time, like that is arguably our best season of Campbell football history.
Well, we have not gotten more wins than 6. And again, that's another conversation for another time, but there has not been a team that has gotten more than 6 wins in a season.
And to be a trendsetter and to break ground on the stadium, to help build a weight room, to help be a part of the transformational process, even to, I mean, I think back to some of the first games and the stories of fans passing out on the field because it was so hot and the humidity, the trailer in the sky, like all the things he went through, and now is reconnected with Braxton Harris. He's integral in the program now. Like that full circle moment to me is fantastic. And his reinvestment in the community here at Campbell, that's why it's so great to honor these former athletes, former coaches, to build those generations of people who want to give back and be a part of this place. And obviously Coach Steele, he put a shovel into the ground and literally built a football program.
Yeah, it takes a lot to get anything started, and to see kind of where the trajectory of Campbell football has gone over the last few years. It takes for someone to come in and say, all right, we got to figure it out. Yep. I don't know what the resources are. I don't know how it's going to work out, but we've got to figure it out. And so Campbell as a whole wouldn't be where it is without his investment into the football program, which is an integral part of what we do.
Yeah, and look, him getting that team to 6-5 and getting a winning team here, that quote-unquote early set into motion a whole lot of other things. It set into motion the fact that, hey, well, what could we do with scholarships here? And then going on to that, so you can play the FBS teams. As in next year, Campbell going at ECU and NC State. That doesn't happen if we're non-scholarship.
And if that season and that growth doesn't happen, I'm not sure we make the step to scholarship football.
Absolutely.
We may be at this same PFL level and think of the steps now to the Big South, to the CAA.
That was going to be my next point, is you had to think about where we jumped from to where we are to be in the league with the most parity or second most parity in FCS football, if you want to say that. Like Campbell jumped from the PFL to the Big South, which wasn't the strongest football league by any means, but now they take a jump into the CAA, which is a strong football conference. You have to think that it all started because he decided to come here and work with no scholarships.
Well, and look, you know, Campbell doesn't go to the CAA without a football team. Campbell would have some trouble getting into the CAA with a bad football team. Yes, we haven't had the 7-8 win season that everybody thinks that this, and going to the FCS playoffs that everybody thinks that this team can get to, but he put it on a course to say, hey, you can win here, put more resources in it, did get players here, did get wins. And look, homecoming every year, we have 5,000 plus and sell it out. And it's one of the best days in Buies Creek schedule. They used to have, and nothing to this, because if you talk to people, they say it was a good time too. Homecoming was at the soccer field for a soccer match in the fall every single year.
You know, Stan Cole's going to fight you over that take, but yes, you're right. I mean, there are some great traditions with soccer and football right now.
And football brings 3,000 to 5,000 people to this campus every other week in the fall. It is a special program.
Oh, and March 22nd, our spring game. I mean, it's right around the corner.
it's a special program, and again, all this doesn't come in place unless you pick the right guy. And I always say Dale Steele was the perfect person, the perfect personality with the experience, as he had been coaching for a long time to get this done here. And as you talked about, he started to reconnect with the program even before Minter resigned. So that shows a lot as well. It was a little bit of a bumpy dismount for him as he was fired a year after that winning season, and for him to come back and is bringing the alumni back and to be an advisor and to do so much as he had for the administration and now for this is certainly something. So it'll be a special day. You'll be able to see all of them at halftime of the game. We got a lot more coming up next week as well. Our next Camel Call podcast will be a replay of Camel Call Live. We're doing 2 Camel Call Lives in the spring, one this month, one in March. Evan Budrovich is going to be sitting in the hot seat. We're going to be doing a spring sports preview. We will have the head coaches from women's lacrosse, baseball, and softball here just in time to get you ready for these seasons that start in February.
Yeah, and what's the spread at Napper Tandy's?
Well, it is. You can get whatever you want. I would recommend.
Well, they have good food too.
My two favorites
when you
are.
Go to Napper Tandy's.
Oh yeah. What do you mean? What's the spread?
Yeah,
for
that's a
Napper
good
Tandy's?
question. No, what's the context
I'm
of
saying,
the
like,
spread?
what food do you like when you go?
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, what's the spread?
I'm not saying we're getting a catered meal here. Yeah.
I was going to be, will you go over a minute? Will you go over an hour on air? Will you go an hour and a half? Will you go 2 hours? It'll be fun doing it. But hey, so a little bit of a Napper Tandy's ad. This coming Thursday, 6:30 to 7:30, you'll get to see Evan. You'll get to have a lot of fun. The fish and chips is amazing, and it literally is like if you caught this fish that they put down on your plate, you'd be like, "Wow, I caught a good fish." And the Philly cheesesteak, is really good at all. The corned beef egg rolls, exotic but really really good. You might be there eating all night, Evan.
If you like Irish food, that is the place. Traditional Irish menu
it's authentic.
with the flavor. Yeah.
The owner grew up 100 miles south of Dublin and still has the accent. If you haven't been, it's in Anger. It's Napper Tandy's. Evan's going to be there along with our coaches. Gaylord, the mascot, is going to be there as well. 6:30 to 7:30 coming up this Thursday. You can listen to it live if you can't make it out there. And, of course, we'll have it on the podcast.
And good to reconnect. I mean, obviously, with Coach Carasoni in softball and then Don Easley, we could talk about my broken tooth at a lacrosse practice. But Chris Marks, whose last game he was here was a snow day. And Lendl, I don't know if you were a student or not. We had to shovel the snow off the field in the outfield to play against Purdue when he was the lead assistant there. So just all the stories coming back would be fun to reconnect on.
Yeah. Speaking of, let's just hope we get out of this entire.
This
entire cold stuff. Get this out of your system before February. Oh, by the way, they're not going to bring it up, so I'm going to brag on the couple of guys that are sitting here. Lendl Suggs, scholarship recipient, Black Play-by-Play Association, which it just came out last week, which is sensational for all the hard work that he has done for this, and Evan Budrovich, who, as we talk about all the time, does so much work for the ACC network and everything like that. You got to fill in on Notre Dame's men's basketball radio broadcast that's on Sirius XM and Coast to Coast because everybody and their sister was at the semifinal CFP game. That had to be an amazing experience.
I feel like I'm bad luck for the Fighting Irish. One is a USC alum, and then two, I'm now 3-0 calling NC State men's basketball games for state. I'm now 0-1 for Notre Dame. So I don't know if I'll get the call next year, but no, that was a blast. And Chris, you've done games at PNC. What a great venue. And then think about Lendl, right? I mean, a scholarship that got created during COVID, an opportunity for students who don't always have the resources or the funds to make things happen. And here you are from a top 3 finalist last year, and now you're a winner. And we're winners, as Justin O'Hara always said, winners get paid and winners get what they get. So congrats to you because I know you put in the hours to do it. And for others to notice that too, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's an amazing opportunity. The best part about it is not the scholarship money, but the connections and the draw that you have there as well, where you have the chance to now be a part of the MLB Voices program and go call games during the spring game and throughout the year leading up to the MLB season, a chance to go to the All-Star game and things like that. So it's an amazing opportunity. I'm very appreciative to all of those guys. and all of my mentors there. They've worked so hard to put it together, and in 4 to 5 years, it's become something big that's across the nation. So. It's wonderful.
And also to complete the trifecta, Zach Burley, not on the show today. He's doing stuff as his director of creative job, but he had one of the STA calls of the year, as he's been doing professional soccer as well as what happened here. So really, really cool stuff. We're lucky to have all of them, and you can hear all of them this weekend. Evan will be on the call for the men's basketball game Saturday at 2. Lendl will be on the call Friday at 7 for the women, and Sunday at 2 as well. We would love to see you out here. GoCamels.com for tickets. If not, join us on Flow College. For Evan and Lendl, I'm Chris saying so long. We'll talk to you next week here on Camel Call.
R.I.P. Bob Uecker. We love you, buddy.